the title is How to Create the Causes of Happiness and Avoid the Causes of Suffering. And it has a big wave on the front. Yeah. Meaning that, in the past we did certain actions, and by the energy of those actions, the results are coming. And so you can ride on the wave if you've created virtue. Otherwise, if you haven't, the wave crashes on top of you. So it's up to us, to decide what kind of result we want to have and then create the causes for that kind of result. Okay, so we'll start like we did last night with the different recitations in order to set our motivation and make clear that we're going to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha for spiritual guidance. And then, like yesterday, then a few minutes of silent meditation, and I'll set the motivation, then the talk, and then if there's time, questions and maybe answers. And if you can't see in the back, because I can't see you either, then move your chair, it's fine, yeah? So, just move where you need to be, where you're comfortable and you can see. Okay, so again, we think that we're sitting in the presence of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and imagine the Buddha surrounded by all the other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the space in front of us, and ourselves surrounded by all sentient beings. Because we are surrounded by all sentient beings. We live in relation to every single living being. Even we may live far away from them, we still live in relation to them. And there's nowhere where we can go where we are not in relation with other living beings.
To the teacher endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one that's gone, the foe destroyer, completely and fully awakened one, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, one God to bliss, nor the world's supreme guide to beings to be tamed. Teacher of gods and humans, to you, the Buddha, endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When I was supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise and I bow, with pure bodies formed supremely fine, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of that supreme guide, to you I bow. With the supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I bow. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not, incomparable wise one, to you I bow. Great compassionate protector, all-knowing teacher, field of merit and good qualities, vast as an ocean, to the Tathagata I bow. Through purity, freeing from attachment, through virtue, freeing from the lower realms. Unique, supreme, ultimate reality, to the Dharma that is peace I bow. Having freed themselves, showing the path to freedom too, well established in the trainings. The holy field endowed with good qualities, to the Sangha I bow. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind completely, this is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop through a bubble. A dream, a flash of lightning and clouds, see conditioned things as such. Through this merit may a sentient beings attain the state of all seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from the ocean of cyclic existence, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. This ground anointed with
refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. Let's generate our motivation. So we may feel like independent people, as if we could support ourselves. We don't need anybody else. But actually, it would be totally impossible for us to stay alive, just depending on our own skills and knowledge. because we don't know how to grow food, or even if we know how to grow food, we don't know how to make the tools that are necessary to plow the fields and grow the food. We don't know how to grow cotton or make, polycotton and other kinds of fabric. We don't know how to sew, especially making very complicated designs on clothes. We don't know how to build entire buildings by ourselves. So when we look around us at everything we use every single day, it all came from the efforts of other living beings. And when we really contemplate that repeatedly and let that seep into our mind, then we respect others, we appreciate them, we realize that we're dependent on them and we couldn't stay alive without them. And so we want them to be happy, because if the people that surround us, that we live near, are happy, then our own life is better. If we make the people around us miserable, our life becomes much more difficult. So we really train the mind to appreciate the kindness of others. And this really changes our mood and how we feel about the world. And it also influences our spiritual practice. Because instead of just seeking our own awakening, our own liberation, we want to repay the kindness of others and be able to benefit them and lead them on the path to liberation and full awakening. And to do that, then we have to actualize the path in our own mental continuum. We have to become Buddhas ourselves. And so that is our motivation for sharing the Dharma together this entire weekend, and even beyond that. So take a moment, generate that motivation. So, really contemplating our interrelationship with other sentient beings is very eye-opening and actually quite profound. And it really challenges this feeling we have of, I'm an independent person, I can do this and that in my life, and, I can take care of myself, I don't need anybody. And actually, we see it's quite the opposite. Yeah. And, then when we do that, then of course, we see that we're not independent entities, that we really depend on others who, until now have always come through for us. Okay, in certain respects, sometimes people drop the ball, okay, but we're still alive. And just the fact that we're alive means that other sentient beings have come through for us. Because if they didn't, we would have died, first of all, in infancy, because we couldn't take care of ourselves. And if people hadn't taught us when we were kids, and even as adults, we wouldn't know anything. We wouldn't even know how to speak, let alone read and write. So, when you really think about it, it's like, wow, this is quite amazing, everything I've received from other living beings, and how much I've taken their efforts and their kindness for granted. Like, of course there's food. Of course there's food. Even in COVID, during COVID, when some of the shelves in the grocery store were open, still we felt, of course there's food. And there still was food, if you had money. And then we have to ask, well, how come some people have money and other people don't? And is that something that is fair? Or do we have some responsibility towards the people around us and their welfare? Because when we take care of them, then they're able to take care of us. When we don't want to share, when we don't care about the policies that we legislate, then society really falls apart and everybody suffers as a result. Okay, so this whole thing of appreciating other living beings and wanting them not to suffer, which is compassion, wanting them to have happiness in its causes, that's what love is, then those kind of things, come in our mind much more easily. We can't sit and say, I should love everybody, but that guy's a jerk and this one's an idiot and I can't love them and I want them to go to hell. When we think like that, we are sending ourselves to hell, because right at that moment, our own mind is unhappy, it's restless, it's not peaceful. And in addition, what we put in our mind, it's what we call karmic seeds. For lack of a better description, and this is not a good one, the residual energy left from our actions, that then influences what we experience in the future. So the whole law of karma is, it's basically cause and effect in the ethical realm. We believe in cause and effect. It's not, we live our life by cause and effect. Why do you want your kids to go to school? So they get an education, so they can, have an income and they can have happy lives, hopefully. Why do you take medicine when you're sick? Because you want to get better and the medicine helps. Why do you avoid certain foods that make you ill? Well, or at least you try and avoid them until your attachment looks at them and like, I gotta eat them anyway. Why do we avoid drugs and alcohol? Because we know the result, and we want to avoid that result. So when we talk about karma, it's the same system of cause and effect. The thing is that it goes beyond this cause and then an immediate effect. It goes from one lifetime to the next lifetime. So things that we're experiencing in this life, some of the causes were created in this life. Some of the causes were created in previous lives. The actions we do now are creating the cause for what we'll experience in future lives, and even what our future lives will be. Okay? We often say that some people act worse than animals. Yeah, have you heard that expression? Yeah, when I was little and when we messed off too much, Mom and Dad said, "You guys are acting like animals." Yeah, meanwhile, the dog was always pampered and the cats were pampered. But we were rambunctious, tearing the house apart. Yeah, but if people have a mind, and are acting like animals in this life, then to be born as an animal, it's just making your body match your mental state. That's not that far-fetched. And so when we see, that we're creating the causes now for what we're going to be in the future, then we want to take care of our present actions and live in an ethical way. And also when we see that we're experiencing now the results of actions that we did in previous lives, then that motivates us when we have happiness to continue creating good karma so that it will go on to the future life. And when we experience suffering, instead of blaming other people, to realize, hey, the principal cause was my own actions that I did in the past. Okay? That doesn't mean when we're suffering that we deserve to suffer. Nobody deserves to suffer. To me, the word deserve implies that there's a manager of the universe who assigns rewards and punishments, and some people deserve to suffer. No. From a Buddhist viewpoint, there's nobody who's managing the universe. Yeah, it's our causes that are creating, our actions, creating the causes for what we experience. Yeah, and so, it means in this way, we're really responsible. Yeah, and it also means that when we are unhappy or miserable, we can't blame others. Yeah, well, you can. It's a free world. If you really want to blame others, go ahead and do it. But what does it do for you to blame others? How does it lessen your own misery when you blame others for your misery? Yeah, when we're angry and we blame others, I don't know about you, but I feel worse because I can't control others and make them stop doing what I'm blaming them for doing, which is causing me misery. Yeah, we can't control other living beings. Yeah. So blaming them doesn't really, you think, yeah, oh, I'll try and control them. Yeah. You ever tried to control somebody else? We can't even control our own mind. Yeah. Look at the wars that are happening now. Yeah. Israel trying to control Hamas. Hamas trying to control Israel. Yeah. Putin trying to control Ukraine. Ukraine trying to, control, not seize Russia, but control what their actions are. You can't do it. Yeah. So just this viewpoint of blaming others and making ourselves a victim, which is incredibly popular nowadays, as modeled by I don't need to say the name. Okay? But what an example of somebody whose whole mind is filled with, I'm a victim. Even though having wealth and power and blah, blah, yeah, they're a victim of everything. Yeah, and we're supposed to feel sorry and donate money, even though they're a billionaire. That's a pretty clever marketing tactic, isn't it? Yeah. So, in Buddhism, we have to, understand cause and effect and be responsible for our own actions. Yeah, because we bear the result of them. The external situation is what we call cooperative conditions that can make our karma ripen. Okay, so one story somebody told me was about her son who was drinking because the parents drank, especially the father. The son got in a horrible accident, killed the other. It was a head-on collision that killed the other family. He wound up on life support, and the family had to pull the plug. Okay, the principal cause for his short death was some negativity created in a previous life. The cooperative conditions in this life were driving under the influence. Okay, because if he didn't drive under the influence, that karma would not have ripened in the traffic accident. Okay, so it's things like that, So that, when we understand that, then we want to be very careful about the situations we put ourselves in, because that influences what karma will ripen. Yeah. And so, when we put ourselves near people who keep virtue, it's easier for our own virtuous karma to ripen. When we put ourselves in groups where there's a lot of non-virtue, then it's easier for our non-virtuous karma to ripen. Okay, so to take care of the situations we put ourselves in. In my first meditation course in 1975, I sat next to a young woman named Teresa, and she had been to Kopan Monastery, our teacher's monastery in Nepal, and she was going back for the course that autumn, and she encouraged me to go, and I thought about it, and I decided to go, and Teresa said, okay, I'll see you at Kopan, and then we can go out and have some chocolate cake together, because the Nepalis were beginning to make some Western style desserts that all the hippies liked. So, she said, we'll go out for some chocolate cake. Okay, so I get to Kopan, I'm waiting, many people knew Teresa, we're all waiting for Teresa to arrive. She doesn't come. And we're waiting, and she had told everybody that she was coming for the course, and she's not coming. I mean, the course is starting, and Teresa's not there. Then, after a while, we find out, okay, some of you may remember that there was, I think he was French, a man in Bangkok who was a serial murderer. Yeah, you remember. So Teresa was one of his victims. She had a layover in Bangkok, went to a party, met this guy. He apparently was, very pleasant and charming, invited her out to lunch the next day. She accepted the invitation, and then they found her body in a Bangkok canal. He murdered her. So for me, that was like, oh, wow. Okay, like when you make certain choices that put yourself in dangerous situations, it's easy for that kind of karma to ripen. Yeah. So it was a big wake up for me. Another big wake up, and here I'm talking about negative karma, but it works just as well for positive, which I'll get to. But what really turned me on to this text, The Wheel of Sharp Weapons, that's talked about in here, was getting hepatitis when I was in Nepal. This was 1975, 76 maybe. And yeah, some of you have heard this story. I like telling this story. Yeah, because it's still, the situation is still very real for me. Yeah, how many of you have ever had hepatitis? One person. Okay, I hope none of you have it. It's not a pleasant disease. You have absolutely no energy, yeah. And it works in your system whereby it also creates a lot of anger. In Tibetan medicine, it's affiliated with whatever element it is that has to do with bile, yeah. So anyway, so I had hep, and the building I was in was the dorm room. Yeah, if you think, you don't like the accommodation at the Abbey, let me tell you what it was like there. Okay, so it was probably 3-story building. The whole thing was made of wood. Okay, but just single planks. So the ceiling of the room that I was in, the planks were the floor of the people who lived on top. So when they swept their floor, it all rained down on us. Okay. So I'm lying there with no energy. There's no plumbing in the building. Yeah. You have to go outside. And where you're going outside isn't a nice, stinky outhouse like we have here. Yeah. Nice, stinky outhouses. Yeah. They were pits in the ground with 2 boards over them and a woven mat around. Okay. So you had to be very careful at night walking there because there weren't any lights, And if you stepped in the wrong place, well, okay, you can imagine what you fell into. So, so I was lying there, miserable, thinking, what caused this? Oh, it's the food. Hepatitis A you get from food and vegetables and fruits that weren't washed. And, there's all the little monks who work in the kitchen, and they're kids and they don't wash it properly. And that's why I got sick, and they just, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So a lot of good that does me, getting angry, complaining, blah, blah. Okay. And then somebody came in with this book, The Wheel of Sharp Weapons. It was a very thin pamphlet published by the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives. And it was this text, The Wheel of Sharp Weapons. And I'll read you the verse because this was at the beginning days of my understanding Buddhism. And I always felt, I heard the teachings, I liked them, and I felt, I really should practice the Dharma. But I also wanted to have a lot of fun and do all that stuff. But I should practice the Dharma. Okay, so here was the verse. When my mind falls prey to suffering, it is the wheel of destructive karma returning upon me. for definitely causing turbulence in the hearts of others. From now on, I will take all suffering upon myself. Wait a minute, I'm sorry, that was the verse 10, mine is verse 9. Okay, when my body falls prey to unbearable illnesses, it is the wheel of destructive karma returning on me for injuring the body of others. From now on, I will take all sickness upon myself. Okay, so I'm sitting there and going, why me? Why do I have hepatitis, Mom? Yeah. Oh, why? Yeah, when my body falls prey to unbearable sickness, it's the result of injuring the body of others. Yeah, and so I started thinking of all the flies I swatted, all the snails I squashed. That's just this life. And then I thought, previous lives, who knows what I did? Yeah, got in fights with people, maybe beat them up. You see, it must have been a previous life. I can't do that this lifetime. Yeah, but injuring the body of others, yeah, maybe being in the army, maybe commanding people to kill others. Yeah, who knows what I did? But it really hit me. Yeah, the principal cause was my own doing. And so that changed my mind from I should practice the Dharma to I want to practice the Dharma. Yeah. And so that was, I look back on that experience now, and I'm very glad I had that because it really taught me, some important things and got me going on the path. So this is, the whole thing about cause and effect. Now, also, the happiness we experience is due to causes we created. Yeah. Yeah, everybody ate breakfast this morning? Yeah, you ate food yesterday? Huh? Did you ever think that, well, first of all, that food came because of the efforts of others? And that the principal cause for receiving the food was being generous and sharing food with others, probably in a previous lifetime. Yeah, so the happiness that we have, the security that we have now, comes from virtuous actions that we did either earlier in this lifetime or in previous lives. Yeah. So instead of taking things for granted, if we realize, they depend on causes, then we want to continue to create those kind of causes. So for example, making donations, most of you brought food for the community, for all of us to share for the weekend. Making donations to refugee organizations or to soup kitchens, yeah, or city, what do you call them? Food banks, yeah, making donations. It gives food to others, or practicing generosity in some other way. It creates the cause, that we have enough to eat. And when you look around, we have so much in our lives. It's just amazing what we have. And our having it comes from the virtuous karma we created as the principal cause, and the kindness of others, as the cooperative conditions. So when we really think deeply about this, it changes how we approach life. And we don't take things for granted anymore. And we become much more careful with what we say and do and think, yeah, because we see that all of this can have long-term results. So the action may be small, but because karma gestates in our mind stream, the result can be big, whether it's a virtuous karma or a non-virtuous karma. Okay? So with that kind of background, we're going to continue with this text. So we started it 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, we've got as far. We did 17 verses in 2 years. Wow. Huh? 2021. Somebody told me we have to start on verse 8. Oh, okay, so 3 years. Okay. I thought you were saying we're on verse 20. Okay. Or maybe you were saying I'm 21. Yeah, I feel young. Yeah. Okay. So, all the rest, the tapes are archived if you want to go and listen to them later. Okay, so starting verse 18. When my material resources waste away, it is the weapon of destructive karma turning upon me. For being disrespectful towards others' resources, from now on, I will help others find what they need. So the first line tells what our situation is now, when my material resources waste away. The second and third line are telling us why that happened. It's the wheel of destructive karma turning upon me. What did I do in the past? For being disrespectful towards others' resources. And having experienced that suffering, how are we going to change and what are we going to do in the future? From now on, I will help others find what they need. Okay, so when my material resources waste away, sometimes, well, we know the economy goes up and down, doesn't it? Yeah, and the stocks go up and down. Even if you don't have stocks, the economy goes up and down. Sometimes you have a job, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get paid well, sometimes you don't. Sometimes there's all sorts of hidden fees and you wind up spending more money than you had planned. So material resources waste away. Or maybe you're a farmer and there's drought and your crops don't grow. Or, you raise cattle, which is not a particularly good livelihood, but for people who depend on that, then there's illness in the animals and they die. So, the material resources waste away. Yeah, we don't have what we need. So what kind of things, did we do in the past? We were disrespectful towards others' resources. Yeah. So what does that mean? Well, I'm going to keep reading from the book and stop and comment, It's happened sometimes we may not be able to get the things we require to stay alive: food, shelter, clothing, and medicine. Or if we have them, they are stolen or destroyed before we could use them. So just think of the countries in the world, where they don't have enough, food, shelter, clothing, and medicine. It's a real situation. Or if we have them, they're stolen or destroyed before we can use them. An earthquake or fire destroys our home. War destroys crops or makes it dangerous to leave home to go to the store. Insurgents prevent humanitarian relief from reaching those in need. It's not always insurgents, sometimes it's governments. Okay, meanwhile, grain in silos in some countries rots, either because people won't sell it or obstacles prevent its distribution. So we actually have enough food on the planet to feed everybody. The problem is that we don't share it. Yeah. And we human beings think that we're smart. How are we smart? Yeah. Okay, so the karmic cause for such unfortunate situations is being disrespectful towards others' resources. We did not care when others needed things and did not share what we had with them. Yeah, think about it. You ever done that in your life? Even when you were a kid, somebody wanted, to ask for some of your marbles, and you didn't want to share your marbles. Nowadays, it isn't marbles, it's Lego pieces, right? No, that's all. What else? Yeah, Legos. Okay, yeah, she's a mom. She knows. Yeah, you're too old. Yeah.
I was thinking video games.
Oh yeah, video games too. Okay, yeah, you're with it. Okay, in other situations, we stole others' possessions or deceive people so that they will give us ownership of things that rightfully were theirs. Yeah, there was an article in the paper last week about a young man who was killed. He went to like a 7-Eleven kind of store, took a beer, walked out of the store with the beer. The cashier saw him and ran after him. Yeah, so the cashier was another young man, ran after that guy. Then that guy turned around and chased this one who ran away because he was afraid. This guy went back in the store, grabbed a knife, and then killed the one who had stolen the beer. Okay? Yeah, so you steal a beer, you deprive others of what was rightly theirs, you get killed. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? Yeah, needless to say, the parents were, really miserable. Okay, so we did that kind of thing of stealing, yeah. And you think, oh, the guy who got killed is the victim, but he's the one who stole the beer, yeah. And the other guy who pulled the knife, okay, that's not too cool to do, yeah. But he was trying to stand up for the store owners because he was responsible there. It's, yeah. Okay. Or, we talk people we cheat people. This goes on. How many court cases are there of people cheating people? Yeah, and taking things that aren't rightfully theirs. So in the past, we did not pay fair wages, exploited workers, or incited a crowd to destroy the property of those we didn't like. Okay, so you can see, you don't pay fair wages, you don't treat people's property respectfully. What happens? In this life, you have problems, and it puts the karmic seeds in your mind that brings a lot of misery in future lives. In short, when we lack what we need, our resources go to waste, or we cannot access them. This is the karmic result of thinking only of ourselves. I want, I need, this is mine. To change this behavior with a heart that genuinely cares about others, and to the best of our ability, we practice helping others find what they need. Yeah, so opening a soup kitchen, volunteering at a shelter, yeah, voting for things that will provide people what they need. Yeah, Washington State is a very compassionate state. I was just reading that a bill passed now so that extending the healthcare system so that more people who don't have money can access healthcare, including some undocumented workers. Yeah, because these people get sick too. Yeah. So to change this behavior of I want, I need, this is mine, with a heart that genuinely cares about others, and to the best of our ability, we practice helping others find what they need. As Shantideva, the 8th century Indian sage, said, may people think of benefiting each other. And for me, that's a really powerful line. May people think of benefiting each other. It sounds simple. And we've been taught in various religions, love thy neighbor as thyself. Yeah, but we don't know how. Yeah. And instead we get locked into me, I, my, and mine. And this actually creates our own misery. Okay. So then what follows in the book is a story that somebody told me, which I'll let you read, on your own. We'll go on to the next verse. Okay, verse 19. Because the book, what I did when writing it, is I asked people to tell me stories of their life experience that illustrate karma. And then the book is very full of those stories. Oh, so right now, let me do another little detour. I am working on a book by Geshe Dadel, where he talked about, he was learning to drive in Georgia. And so he was quoting, he was looking at the driver's manual, that incredibly interesting book that you're going to get tested on at the DMV. And he was seeing parallels between that and different ethical principles. So he wrote about this, and I'm going through and editing it. And what I want to do is add stories about people's driving experience that I can match with the different lines in the DMV code. Okay, so I have a few stories that people have told me in the past, but if you have interesting stories about driving, or maybe on a plane, airplane stories or motorcycle stories or bicycle stories or something, yeah, please, if you would write it down and give it to me. I'd like to put these kinds of things in the book, because that makes things real, when we can hear stories from people. Okay. Geshe has a few of his stories in there about learning to drive. Okay, so anyway, in this book, there's lots of stories that people had given me, and they're all true stories. I didn't make them up. The names, I changed the names, but the stories are accurate. Okay, so verse 19, when my mind becomes unclear and my heart unhappy. Okay, so you're listening to teachings and you're falling asleep, you're meditating, you're falling asleep, you sit down to read, and your mind, you just don't get anything, nothing makes sense to you. Yeah, have you ever had that happen? It doesn't make sense, then you read it at another time, and it's like, oh yeah, I understand it. But before, when you read it, it was like, reading, I want to say Chinese, except there's people here who can read Chinese, but I can't. Okay. Yeah, I get the book, and I turn it this way. I don't know which way the letters go, or the syllables, I should say. Okay, when my mind becomes unclear and my heart unhappy, it is the weapon of destructive karma turning upon me for making others accumulate negative karma. From now on, I will shun enabling others' destructive actions. Okay, so our mind's unclear, our heart is unhappy, we're just dragging through life. Why is our mind like that? Because we made others accumulate negative karma. We encourage them in unwholesome actions. Okay, so here's the text. We sit down to meditate or study, and our minds are moody, heavy, or unhappy. Sound familiar? We lack energy, and even though we have the opportunity to practice the Dharma, or even do an ordinary task that requires concentration, we doze off instead. We may have many good things going for us in our lives, but all we see is what we lack and complain that life is unfair. Yeah, this is our culture nowadays, Life is unfair, and I'm a victim, and I am entitled to more and better. Yeah, we don't think I should give more and better. We think I should get more and better. Yeah, the world is there to serve me, and when I suffer, it's a hoax, it's a witch hunt. It's unfair, it's a travesty of justice, and the world's going to fall apart. At least my world's going to fall apart, but that's all I care about. Okay. So whatever we have, it's not good enough. We're envious of those who have more and better. In Dharma circles, we call this thinking that the chanting is better on the other side of the meditation hall. And sometimes it is. Namo Benzu. Okay, I won't, I'll spare you. An unclear mind and an unhappy heart are due to having made unwise choices in the past. Instead of encouraging others' good qualities and virtuous activities, we drew them into our illegal schemes, vengeful actions, and dirty business deals. There's so many examples of this in society, aren't there? Yeah, just amazing. Perhaps in a previous life, we were an army general who commanded troops to kill the enemy. Or we asked family members to lie for us or encouraged them to report that they worked more hours than they actually did so that the family would have more money. Yeah, how many, were paid by the hourly wage? But, we work 45 minutes, we mark down an hour, right? Yeah. Or encourage other people to do like that. Seeing the unhappiness we experience due to these actions, we make the determination to shun enabling others' destructive actions. Okay, we decline to get entangled in their non-virtuous activities and don't dream up ones of our own that we then get involved in. Okay? In fact, we do the opposite and encourage others to do constructive actions and to use their talents to benefit others. Yeah, so to really think about, what do we encourage people to do? Yeah, do we encourage them to be honest? Or do we encourage them to milk others to get everything that they possibly can? Yeah, do we encourage people to be generous? Or do we encourage them to keep the money for the family, or better yet, give it to us? Yeah. People often ask me, here I'm talking my own experience, people often ask me how to benefit their deceased relatives and friends so that they will have a good rebirth. Yeah. Whenever somebody dies, I'm asked this question. Okay. So actually, when I'm teaching Dharma, while people are alive, I'm answering that question. Yeah, but it doesn't register when you're alive to help your friends and relatives create virtue. Yeah, that only registers after they die and you start thinking of their next life. Okay. So the best way to help friends and relatives is to encourage them to engage in virtuous deeds while they are alive. Yeah, don't wait until after they die. I mean, you do prayers and dedications after somebody dies. That's helpful. But the real way to help them is to encourage them while they're alive so they create their own virtue. Okay? Inspire them to be generous, to live ethically, to be tolerant, to get along well with others. Yeah? Don't feed their rancor. Discourage their harmful actions. The more we can help them live a wholesome life, the more they will create constructive karma that will ripen in their future happiness. When they die, we will not have to worry about them, and our prayers will be more effective because there will be the seeds of constructive karma on their mind streams that can be activated by our prayers. Yeah. So to really, if we really care about people, encourage them to be generous, to live ethically, to be tolerant. Yeah. Okay. This is pretty applicable to our lives, isn't it? Yeah. Verse 20. When I fail in my endeavors and feel deeply perturbed, okay. Can you remember a situation in your life where you failed in your endeavors and you were very upset about it? It is the weapon of destructive karma turning upon me for obstructing the work of sublime ones. From now on, I will relinquish all obstructive deeds. Okay. I once heard a story about, this is talking about failure, yeah, and how we feel deeply perturbed, and we're all going to fail sometimes in our life. Yeah, it's what happens. We have some endeavor and it doesn't work out as planned because we can't control the world, and our karma's ripening in ways that aren't supporting what we want to do at that moment. So I heard a story about a man who worked for a university, and he was in charge of screening the applicants for graduate positions in science, okay? And so, of course, if you're going to be a scientist, you're doing experiments, and sometimes you get the results you want, and sometimes your experiment totally flops, and you don't get the results you want. And we have situations where scientists then finagle the data so it looks good for them, yeah. So anyway, this man who was reviewing applicants for graduate programs in the university, he said that one of the ways that he evaluates applicants is to see how they respond when they fail. Yeah, because especially if you want to be a scientist, you know, you're taking chances and you may fail, okay? So how do you respond when you fail? And I thought that was so interesting, you know, because some people, when they fail, they just give up. You know, it's like, forget it. Yeah, I can't be best. I'm not going to do it. I give up. Yeah. Other people, when they fail, it gives them renewed energy and they try harder. Yeah. But how many people give up when they fail? Yeah, especially young children. Yeah, they're learning to read, they're learning math, they're learning something, and they make one mistake, and some adult says, "Oh, you're dumb." Yeah, and that totally shatters the kid's self-confidence. And then from then on, they find it difficult to do, you know, whatever that task is. I taught school before I became a nun. And some people have heard this story before about the little boy named Tyrone in my third grade class who couldn't read. And Tyrone thought he was dumb, and that's why he couldn't read. He wasn't dumb, he was a smart kid. But somewhere along the way, somebody had told him he was dumb. And because of that, he internalized that, and he couldn't learn to read. Yeah. And, you know, and so how many people grow up to be adults because of that kind, and who, you know, when they fail at something, just say, okay, I can't do it, and stop trying. He did improve. Yeah, he did improve. But I always wonder what happened to Tyrone. Yeah. Actually, I wonder what happened to a lot of my third grade students. Okay. So, you know, failing it's going to happen in our life at one thing or another. Yeah. I could tell you the long saga about starting Sravasti Abbey and how many times I failed in the process of it. Yeah. So I don't know why in the world I kept going, but I did. So, yeah. So, okay. When I fail in my endeavors and feel deeply perturbed, you're worried, you're unsatisfied, you feel like a wreck because you failed. Okay, where's it coming from? What's the principal cause? It's not that the world has it against you. It's for obstructing the work of sublime ones. And what are we going to learn from that? From now on, I will relinquish all obstructive deeds. So this verse concerns failings in the projects we try to accomplish. How many people have failed in things you've tried to accomplish? Yeah. Okay. We try to encourage people in our workplace to recycle. Here's an example of a project. Okay, but they aren't interested. We try to create a Dharma website, but the causes and conditions don't come together. We want our children to join the family business, but none of them are interested. Despite our creative ideas and efforts, our goals, either spiritual or worldly, aren't actualized, leaving us feeling stymied and frustrated. Okay, when this happens, rather than complain or feel sorry for ourselves, that takes all the fun out of it. Yeah, complaining and feeling sorry for ourselves is so therapeutic, isn't it? We feel so good. You know, I say that because I have a PhD in complaining. You ever need a complaint, let me know. I will come up with one very easily in about 2 seconds. Okay. So, and then feel sorry for ourselves because we failed. And we throw a pity party. How many of you like pity parties? Yes, oh, poor me. Oh, they don't treat me right. I had such a good idea. I tried so hard, but these people are so stupid and they wouldn't follow my advice. The world doesn't understand me. I'm going to go to my room and, suck my thumb and overeat and, drink a bottle of tequila and self-medicate, that'll make me feel better, right? Yeah, one bottle of tequila, what's that gonna do to you? Okay. So when this happens, rather than complain or feel sorry for ourselves, let's recognize that this is due to obstructing the work of sublime ones. So the three jewels and our spiritual mentors. Yeah, so people who are intent on virtue. Okay. In the past, we may have disturbed meditators by talking loudly, playing music, or taking their food, or slamming doors. Yeah. Or practicing the symbols in the kitchen. Yeah, you know our kitchen. Yeah, you wash dishes. They'll play the symbols for you, taking the lids of pots and pans. Oh goodness. Okay, so we interfered with others' meditation. We interfered with their study. They were doing virtuous projects. We distracted them from that. Okay, so we may have interrupted the efforts of Dharma students by asking them to do trivial activities, or created obstructions for a charity doing good work in the community. There's a charity, they want to do something to benefit. Yeah, you work in an office, you make problems for them. They can't get the license, they can't register properly, blah, blah, okay? Things, in India, you really see it. Sometimes officials, how they feel powerful is by creating obstacles for other people. Yeah. And maybe people do that here too. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Perhaps we were government officials who interfered with the activities of a temple, or in the case of the Cultural Revolution in China, they destroyed temples and Buddhist statues, forced monastics to disrobe, and burned Dharma texts. Yeah, the Cultural Revolution was a disaster in China. And this is exactly what happened, not only in Tibet, but in China itself. Yeah. So much destruction of the temple, of people who were practitioners. There's a whole generation of people who are my age who should be teachers, but when they were growing up, when they were teenagers, it was the time of the Cultural Revolution, and they got sent to the countryside, to work doing farming or something like that. They couldn't go to school. Everybody was reporting on everybody else. It was, if you don't know about the Cultural Revolution, do some reading. It will let you know what it's like to live under an authoritarian government. Yeah, where people really, the government controls even daily life actions. Okay, recognizing the damaging effects of such actions. Yeah, when we create obstructions for others' virtuous deeds, we make a resolution: from now on, I will relinquish all obstructive deeds. When holy beings or ordinary people build hospitals and schools to benefit society, when they start drug and alcohol recovery programs, bring meals to the elderly, or tutor disadvantaged children. We support their efforts and avoid creating problems and obstacles for them. To the contrary, we do our best to encourage people in their wholesome attitudes and actions and facilitate the conditions to bring these aspirations to fruition. Oh, too bad the contractor hasn't read this verse. How many of you have ever done construction projects? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, I assume. Yeah. Okay, because it never is like they tell you it's going to be. Yeah, you're nodding your head. You must have had experience. They promise this and that, and it's going to be streamlined. It'll be done by a certain date. It'll cost a certain amount. None of that is what happens. It costs more. It takes longer. Things are just, You see, I can complain very easily. I told you I'm good at it. Okay. So then it continues. With all these verses, remember to do the taking and giving meditation. Okay, so this is a meditation that was described earlier in the text. And it's a very interesting meditation, because usually in our lives, when there's something good, we'll take it. And when there's something unpleasant, we give it to others. Okay? The floor needs to be mopped. You can do that. I'll take a break. Okay? So, we're always trying to get out of doing things we don't feel like doing. Yeah. And I've asked the community before, I'll ask the rest of you, what does I don't feel like doing it feel like? Yeah, you know the expression, I don't feel like it? We learned it when we were like 2 years old. I don't feel like it. Yeah. What is that mind that doesn't feel like it? What is going on? Yeah. It's very interesting to, when you're in that mental state and I don't feel like it, what does that feel like? Yeah. What are you thinking? What's the emotion in the mind? It's a very curious mental state. Yeah. I don't know about you, but I have a lot. Yeah? Anybody else have a lot? I don't feel like it. Yeah. So we usually take what's good, give what's bad. Okay? This meditation is the opposite. So we think of what's undesirable, the misery that other beings are experiencing, and with a mind of compassion, wanting them to be free of that misery, we imagine taking that from them. And then we imagine giving them our happiness. So transforming our body, our possessions, even our merit into what other sentient beings need and giving that to them. Okay? So there's a visualization that goes with this. Okay? So, first you have to meditate on compassion, wanting others to be free of whatever they're suffering from. And this meditation is very good to do when your mind is unhappy, when you're sick, when things are not working out the way you would like them to. Okay? As you imagine the people in front of you, you can start with people who have a similar situation to the one that you're in, who are experiencing that kind of misery. Or you can think of other people in some kind of miserable situation. And with a mind of compassion, imagine, that you can take their misery from them. And so you think that their misery leaves them in the form of like pollution and smoke or, some kind of polluted substance. You inhale it. Yeah, you don't start coughing in the middle of the meditation, but you inhale it and it becomes like a thunderbolt, or some people prefer to use the visualization of like soap. But anyway, at your heart, not your beating heart, but the center of your chest, that heart, when our mind gets very tight and fearful, it hurts here, doesn't it? You feel it here. So you think of your self-centeredness as like a lump here. And when you take others' suffering and inhale it, it turns into, either a thunderbolt that strikes our own lump of self-concern and self-pity and demolishes it. Or if you prefer the visualization, something like soap, what do you call it? Biodegradable soap, some kind of good soap, Okay. You can think of it washing away, the lump of your own misery. Yeah. And so you're taking you're imagining taking what others don't want, which is their problems, their unhappiness, and then you use it to destroy what you don't want. All of that self-concern, self-pity, self-obsession, self-preoccupation, which we see is the cause of a lot of our own misery, And so it demolishes that. And then you just abide in that open space. Yeah, your heart is open, there's space, there's freedom. And then you imagine, you're transforming your possessions into what other people need and multiplying them and sending it out. You imagine transforming your body into what other people need, multiplying it, sending it out to others, and then the same thing with our spiritual virtues, sending that out and providing good conditions for others to practice the Dharma. And so you imagine that then others are receiving everything that you're sending them, and their misery is alleviated because you took it on, and now they have happiness because you're giving them the things that they need. Yeah. So this is called the taking and giving meditation. It's quite a powerful meditation. Okay. Again, I learned it in my own experience, not only when I had hepatitis, but several years later, I had an infection in my big toe. Okay. Now, our big toe is not, I don't know about you, but I don't usually think very much about my big toes. Yeah, do you think about your big toes a lot? We just take them for granted, Well, wait until you have an infection in your big toe, and your big toe hurts like, okay? And so I was at the monastery in France. Must have been a weekend. The monastery's out in the countryside. I don't have very much money. Impossible to go to a emergency, place. And I have to wait until the morning, to go and see a doctor. And my toe hurt so bad. You cannot imagine your big toe hurting that bad. And the only thing I could do that whole night was this taking and giving meditation. I just kept doing that because that was what helped me transform the situation, and not just sit there and be miserable the whole evening. Yeah. So it's quite a potent meditation that helps you, it helps the person who does it. Sometimes people get afraid. Oh, if I take on the suffering of others, I'm going to get sick. Yeah? Well, that shows the limit of our compassion, doesn't it? I'll stop your suffering, but I don't want it. So maybe I won't stop it, because if it's a choice between you suffering and me, you can have it. Yeah. So when you're doing the meditation, sometimes that mind comes up and it says, I don't want to take on anybody's suffering. I have enough of my own. Okay. And then you have to go back and meditate on compassion and see the kindness of others and want to alleviate their misery and see the defects of our self-centeredness and want to overcome it. Yeah, we have to go back and meditate on those things. Yeah. Actually, we can never really take on the karma of others, or so we shouldn't be afraid of that. But, we can do things for others so that they don't suffer, and we're the person who does the work. And, when you do something like that because you want to do it, yeah, this is your BBC from yesterday, yeah, you want to do something, then your mind is happy, yeah. When your mind says, I don't feel like it, I don't want to do it, then you're miserable. It's a mental state. It's not the actual action. Yeah, it's our mental state. So to work with the mind and make the mind see the benefit of, reaching out and benefiting others and opposing our own self-centeredness. Okay. So with that, we will stop. Maybe time for one question? I'm trying to keep the schedule. Yeah.
What happens if we have all the cooperative conditions, but not the primary cause?
Then, it's like having good weather and fertilizer in the ground, but you don't have any seeds there. Yeah? The primary cause, our karma, is like the seeds we plant in the ground. The cooperative conditions, good weather, fertilizer, water. Yeah? So you can have, the ground can be, prepared, but if you don't plant anything, nothing grows. Okay, let's dedicate. We'll just do the single verse. Yeah.
Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forever.